Are you looking to run your own security guard training school? Check out guardcardtraining.com. We have state-approved security guard training materials, professionally printed and bound student manuals, PowerPoint presentations, knowledge checks, and final exams. Everything you need to run your own program. Just open the box and start teaching. guardcardtraining.com. Welcome to Episode 8 of the Security Professionals Podcast, Training Records. Welcome to the Security Professionals Podcast, brought to you by Security Training Center, LLC. This is your weekly source of news, tips, and education for the security specialist. I am your host, Alex Haddox, and this is Episode 8, Training Records. This week, we're going to talk about the importance of keeping a training log. We cannot stress enough how important it is to maintain a good log of professional training and courses. These logs can help protect you if you're ever accused of misconduct or wrongdoing. And they can help shield you from lawsuits and prosecution. One of the reasons law enforcement is so successful at defending against lawsuits is because they can prove the officer completed X number of hours of training in areas that come up most often in court. The city or county governments spend millions of dollars in training their law enforcement officers. They have entire training departments that are dedicated to tracking and maintaining those records. As a private security officer, you're on your own. Your employer might maintain records for state licensing compliance, but anything beyond the minimum is up to you. Security guards can face personal liability claims for actions taken during a crisis, conflict, or even arrest. Common claims include excessive force, false arrest, false imprisonment, kidnapping, invasion of privacy, malicious prosecution, assault and battery. Keeping a detailed training record can help shield against false claims by helping to explain why certain decisions were made in split seconds. Documentable education and training is critical evidence to establishing credibility with experience, knowledge, and continuing education. We strongly recommend keeping a personal file on all training courses completed. Copies of all completion certificates, documented training videos, copies of relevant newspaper magazine articles studied, and additional in-service programs should be kept in a document storage that is readily attainable by the administration or the individual. A file of relevant articles can be kept as PDF files or cut out and kept as reference in hard file. Document each time the material is watched and read in a training record. Document all supplementary training courses and seminars attended privately. Log all mandatory classes attended for credentialing and qualifications in the personal training record. And retain a copy of all training materials and manuals, especially when supplied by the employer. Log all education and training in the training record. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but the moment you enter a courtroom, this stuff is gold. We feel it is so important to maintain and keep these records, we include a training log page in every single one of our training manuals. It's designed to be copied and printed and stored in a 3-ring binder. We also make the file available for free as a downloadable document from our websites. You can get it from security-training-center.com/training-record.html. I'll also put a link in the show notes. When you say the URL out loud, it sounds really hinky, but it helps with the search engines. If you decide to make your own log, which, isn't necessary because we provide one for you that's been reviewed by attorneys, at a minimum, it should include the name of the course, DVD, magazine, or podcast, the length of course, the DVD or podcast, when it was read, watched, or listened to, the instructor's name, and initial and date the log entry. It is not a legal entry unless you initial and date it. If you watch a training DVD multiple times, note in the log every time you watched it. There is nothing wrong or strange with refreshing yourself on training material. I do it all the time. And in fact, it's a good idea to review important material periodically. If you carry a firearm while on duty, record every time you go to the range to practice. If you compete in martial arts or firearms, record your competitions. Engaging in competition shows a higher level of dedication and competency than the average practitioner or plinker. Take some NRA courses. Heck, become an NRA instructor. Many episodes of this very podcast can count as training and continuing education. That's why we produce it every week. It's part of our commitment to improving the available training in the private security industry. Private security guards vastly outnumber sworn law enforcement. That means that private security directly protects more people and property on an hourly basis and with a lower ratio of officer to citizen than law enforcement. That is a huge responsibility. With that responsibility, private security should have excellent, affordable, and continuing education the same way sworn law enforcement does. If you're ever called into court to defend your actions, a good defense resource is your training log. A good, complete, and filled log helps establish your credibility. This is why every course you take online or in person should include a certificate of completion. That is your proof that you took the course, when it was, who provided the training, and how long it was. If the proof of completion wasn't important, no training company would bother to hand them out. Keep every certificate of completion that you earn. When a prosecutor or other attorney asks you in court why you did something or how you recognized an action for being a precursor to a crime or attack, you can say, "I learned this in my training." The follow-up question is usually, "How and when did you learn this?" And you can then point to your training record as proof. Maintaining a training record is also good advice for anyone who carries a concealed firearm. So, training records. Do it, fill it out, keep filling it out, and keep the collection in a safe place. It is a booklet of legal CYA. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Security Professionals Podcast. If you have any tips you'd like to share with everyone, a comment on a show, or if you would like to suggest a topic for an upcoming episode, write into podcast@security-training-center.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 909-742-0649. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe.
Joel Klein catches a 7 o'clock train after his evening CPR class at the American Red Cross.
Ron Garrett's on the same train. He's had a rough day and doesn't feel like himself. Until he feels the sudden tightness in his chest, Ron never thought he'd actually have a heart attack.
Until Joel is administering CPR, he never thought he'd actually save a life.
When you train with the Red Cross, you change a life.
Starting with your own.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org to learn about life-changing opportunities in your area.
The Security Professionals Podcast is copyright Security Training Center, LLC. This work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. An archive of previous episodes can be found at security-training-center.com/podcast.